The kid on the phone called me Dad. I laughed, thought it was a prank. Then he said, Mom says you left us. And I froze, because I knew that name. It was hers, the girl I loved and lost 12 years ago. She disappeared without a word. Now I know why. She took my son and gave him a lie instead of a father. But now, I'm done being a memory. I'm coming back for the truth. I had just come home after a long day at work, the type of day where everything felt like a blur, and you just want to kick off your shoes, grab a beer, and watch something mind-numbing on TV. That evening, the apartment was quiet, too quiet, as if the city outside had forgotten to make any noise. I had been living alone for years now, after my last relationship crumbled into nothingness. At 40, I had pretty much accepted the fact that I would be a man who would never settle down. I had my work, some good friends, and a routine that kept me occupied enough to not miss the absence of a family or the companionship of someone by my side. The silence was broken by my phone ringing. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I frowned, wondering who the hell could be calling me at this hour. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Hello? The voice on the other end was small, childish, but firm. Are you my dad? My heart skipped a beat, but I figured it was some sort of prank. A kid trying to mess with some stranger. Maybe it was one of those viral videos. I laughed nervously, ready to hang up. But something in the way the boy said it stopped me. I cleared my throat. Uh, who is this? There was a pause, and then the voice spoke again, a little quieter but more insistent this time. Mom said you left us. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise. What did you say? I asked, my voice suddenly more serious. Mom said you left us, the boy repeated as if it was the most normal thing in the world to be telling a stranger. I stood up, pacing around the room. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight, and for the first time in years, I felt an unsettling knot form in my stomach. The voice was familiar in an odd, almost haunting way. The mention of Mom brought a flood of memories I had long buried. I couldn't place the connection immediately, but a name flickered in my mind. Laura. It had been years since I'd thought about her, but she was my first love, the girl I thought I would spend my life with. Back then, things had been so simple, but then life threw its curveballs. A stupid argument, a rash decision, and suddenly she was gone. She disappeared, no explanation, no closure. We never had a chance to talk things through. I didn't know where she went. She just vanished, leaving me to wonder for all these years what happened to her. But now this little boy, a child calling me Dad, was dragging all of those memories out of the dark corners of my mind. It was impossible. She would have told me if she had gotten pregnant. We had ended things so abruptly, but would she have really kept something like this a secret? Still pacing, I muttered, this has to be some kind of joke. But the boy, who must have been no older than 5, spoke again. Mom said you're the one who left us. I grabbed the nearest chair, sinking into it. This wasn't making sense. I tried to calm my racing thoughts, but nothing could make sense of this. I could hear the soft breathing of the boy on the other end of the line, waiting for me to answer. My mind spun. Was it possible? Could Laura really have had a child? And if so, was it mine? The logical part of me wanted to dismiss it, but another part, the part that still remembered her laugh, her smile, the way she used to look at me, wanted to believe, to hope. Was this some cruel twist of fate? Was this boy really my son? I glanced at the time. It was late. Too late for this. I had questions, but I was too confused to form them. So I just asked, "What's your name?" There was a small silence on the other end, before the boy replied with a soft whisper, "Ethan." Ethan. I felt a chill run down my spine. The name struck me like a hammer blow. It didn't seem real, like a distant echo from a life I thought I'd left behind. Before I could say anything else, the phone clicked, and the line went dead. I sat there for a few moments, staring at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. What the hell was that? It felt like some sort of twisted dream. I couldn't even process it fully. I ran my hand through my hair, the words of the boy echoing in my head. Mom said you left us. It didn't make sense. I hadn't been in touch with Laura in years. If this kid was really mine, how had she kept this from me? Why didn't she tell me? I stood up, grabbing my coat and keys, still in a daze. I needed answers. I needed to find her. I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let this boy's voice linger in my mind without understanding what the hell was going on. But there was one thing I was sure of. I needed to find Laura. And I would. The night passed in a blur. I tried to go to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was the boy's face. No, not his face, but his voice. Ethan. It had a certain gravity to it, a sadness, a call for help. It tugged at me, and every time I thought about the name, I could feel the threads of a long-lost connection slowly pulling me back towards something I thought I had moved on from. The next morning I woke up early, my head still foggy with unanswered questions. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, the steam swirling in the mug, but it wasn't enough to clear my mind. I needed to know more. I searched for Laura's name. I had a vague memory of her friends on social media, so I scrolled through my feed, looking for anyone who might have any information. I didn't have any real leads, but I couldn't help myself. I felt like a detective, piecing together the fragments of a story that had been hidden from me for too long. I tried calling a few of the numbers I still had from the past, but most of them were disconnected or had changed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, typing and deleting, typing and deleting. It felt like I was chasing ghosts. Then I remembered something. A place. A small cafe where Laura and I used to meet back when we were still in college. It wasn't much, just a cozy corner cafe with wooden tables and a chalkboard menu. But it was where we spent hours talking about the future. I hadn't been there in years, but something told me I had to go there now. I grabbed my jacket and headed out, trying to shake the strange feeling in my gut. The cafe hadn't changed much. It was just as I remembered, the same smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. I sat at a table near the window and ordered a black coffee. My mind raced with every sip. Could this place hold any answers? Would I find some trace of her here? I noticed a woman behind the counter, about my age, who looked vaguely familiar. She was busy with some orders, but when she caught my eye, she paused for a moment and walked over. "Can I help you?" she asked with a smile. I cleared my throat. "Yeah, I used to come here a long time ago. A woman named Laura? Do you know her?" The woman raised an eyebrow, her expression shifting. She glanced at me, and for a moment, there was something in her eyes that made me feel like she knew more than she was letting on. "Laura," she repeated, a little slower this time. "Yeah, I remember her. She used to come here a lot with a guy. What was his name? Ben, I think." I nodded. "Yeah, that's right. Ben." She smiled faintly. "She left a while ago. Moved away, I think. Last I heard, she was living in a small town up north, somewhere quiet with her son." Her son. The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Her son. I gripped the edge of the table, my fingers trembling. It couldn't be a coincidence. It wasn't. I had to know. I had to find them. I had to find out if Ethan really was mine. "Do you have any more information?" I asked, and trying to keep my voice steady. "Anything else you can tell me?" The woman hesitated, then glanced around the cafe. "I don't know if I should, I placed a few bills on the table, leaning forward slightly. "Please, I need to know. This is important." She sighed and nodded. "All right." She said she was moving to a small town called River's Edge. You might be able to find her there. River's Edge. I didn't know much about it, but I knew one thing for sure. It was my only lead. I left the cafe feeling like I had just uncovered a part of the puzzle I didn't want to see. But now I had no choice but to face it. River's Edge was where I needed to go, and I would go there, no matter what it took. The search had begun, but I wasn't prepared for the truth I was about to uncover. River's Edge was nothing like I expected. I imagined it to be a small town, yes, but more picturesque, more peaceful. Instead, it felt empty, almost forgotten. The streets were narrow, lined with old buildings that seemed to sag under the weight of years. There wasn't much to the place, just a couple of stores, a post office, and a diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. I felt like I had stumbled into a place frozen in time, a place that hadn't seen much change in decades. I parked my car near the town square, heart racing in my chest. The name River's Edge sounded so simple, so innocent, yet the thought of what I might uncover here made it feel heavy with hidden secrets. I had a mission now and there was no turning back. The first stop was the local diner. I walked in, the doorbell chiming as I stepped onto the creaky floor. The scent of fried food and coffee hit me immediately, and I scanned the room for any sign of Laura or her son. A woman behind the counter looked up as I entered. She seemed about the same age as Laura, maybe a little older. She gave me a polite smile, but there was a guarded look in her eyes like she had seen people come and go and wasn't about to share any personal details with a stranger. I approached the counter trying to sound casual. "I'm looking for someone. A woman named Laura. She used to live here. Do you know her?" Her smile faded slightly and she hesitated. "Laura? Yeah, I know her. She lived here for a while, but that was a long time ago. Do you know where she is now?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to find her. It's important." The woman looked me up and down, as if she was trying to gauge whether I was serious or just another tourist passing through. Then with a sigh, she nodded toward the window. She moved away some years back, said she had a fresh start to make. Last I heard, she was living just outside of town, near the woods. Don't know if she's still there, though. My heart pounded in my chest. That was the lead I needed. The woods. It sounded like a place you'd retreat to if you wanted to be left alone, hidden from the world. "Can you give me directions?" I asked. She gave me a short nod and scribbled something on a napkin. "Just head down that road. Keep going until you hit the old mill. From there, it's about 5 minutes to the right. You'll see the house on the edge of the trees." I thanked her and left the diner quickly, my mind racing. This was it. I was finally going to find out the truth, whether I was ready for it or not. I followed the directions through the winding roads, my car bumping along the gravel. The town soon faded behind me, replaced by dense woods and the eerie silence of the countryside. The farther I drove, the more the feeling of dread settled in my stomach. What if this was a mistake? What if I wasn't ready for what I was about to find? After what felt like forever, I reached the old mill. The rusted building loomed in the distance, a skeleton of something that had once been useful, but now abandoned, much like the town I had just left behind. I turned right as instructed, and sure enough, a few minutes later, a modest house appeared at the edge of the trees. I parked my car a little further down the road, trying to keep my distance. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I didn't want to make myself obvious. My heart was thumping in my chest now, louder than ever. I sat there for a moment, gathering my thoughts, my mind racing with the endless possibilities. I was about to knock on the door of a woman I hadn't seen in years, the woman who had left me without a word. And now I was here, trying to find a child I didn't even know existed. I took a deep breath, grabbed the car keys, and stepped out. My boots crunched on the gravel as I walked toward the house. My palms were sweaty, my breath shallow. I reached the door and for a moment, I hesitated. What would I say? How would she react? Before I could knock, the door creaked open. Standing there was a woman who looked exactly like I remembered. The same dark hair, the same bright eyes, the same face that once filled my world. But there was something different about her. She was older, of course, but there was more to it. A distance in her gaze, a coldness I hadn't seen before. And then she spoke. "I figured you'd come." I stood frozen at the door, the words hanging in the air between us. She didn't look surprised to see me, which sent an uncomfortable chill down my spine. "You figured I'd come?" I repeated, my voice hoarse. Laura's eyes flickered for a brief moment, as if she had rehearsed this moment long ago. She stepped back from the door and gestured for me to enter. "I knew you'd eventually show up," she said, her tone cold, almost dismissive. "It was just a matter of time." I walked inside, trying to shake off the unease gnawing at me. The house was small but tidy. The living room was simple, with a few photos hanging on the walls. And then my eyes landed on a picture frame on the mantelpiece. A photograph of her, holding a young boy in her arms. That was when it hit me. The boy. Ethan. I swallowed hard, struggling to keep my composure. Is he mine? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the weight of the question suffocating me. Laura turned slowly, her gaze now fixed on me. You don't have the right to ask that, she said, her voice laced with bitterness. You lost that right a long time ago. I took a step forward, my fist clenched. I have every right to know, Laura. You lied to me. You disappeared without a word, without an explanation. And now I find out I have a son who needs to know the truth. Her expression faltered for just a second, but then the walls came back up. You were never going to be a part of this, she said, her voice hardening. I made sure of that. You wouldn't have been a good father, and I didn't need you. I did everything on my own. The words stung, and for a moment I felt the weight of the years slip through my fingers. Years that could have been spent with my son. Years of memories stolen from me. Why? I asked, my voice trembling with frustration. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you give me a chance? Laura sighed, her face momentarily softening before the mask slid back into place. Because I didn't want you to hurt him, she said quietly. I didn't want you to be a part of his life if all you were going to do was disappear again. I couldn't risk that. I shook my head. You're lying, Laura. You're lying to yourself if you think that was for his good. Her eyes narrowed and she crossed her arms defensively. It doesn't matter now. The past is the past. Ethan is my son, not yours. The finality in her words felt like a slap to the face, but I wasn't going to back down. I stepped closer, my mind made up. You can keep telling yourself that, but the truth is out there. I'm getting a DNA test, Laura. It's the only way I'll know for sure. Her eyes widened, a flicker of fear flashing across her face, but then she straightened, her jaw tightening. You don't need a test. It's not your place anymore. I didn't let her words deter me. I'm doing this, and I'm not stopping until I get answers. If Ethan is my son, I will fight for him. Days passed and I didn't hear from Laura. I arranged for the DNA test to be done in secret, knowing she wouldn't consent if she found out. I had to be sure. I needed proof. I couldn't go back now. When the results came back, I sat in my car outside the clinic, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The test confirmed what I already suspected. Ethan was mine. I felt a mix of relief and rage. The years I'd lost with him, the lies that had kept me from being his father. I could hardly contain the fury bubbling inside me. I called Laura, but she refused to answer. I left message after message, but she ignored them all. She was trying to bury the truth, hoping it would go away. But I wasn't going to let it. One evening, I decided to go back to the house. This time, I wasn't asking for permission. I was taking action. When Laura opened the door, I didn't waste any time. I walked past her without saying a word, heading straight for the living room. Ethan was there, sitting on the couch playing with a toy. He looked up at me, his eyes wide, unsure of who I was. Ethan, I said, kneeling down to his level. I'm your dad. His eyes shifted to Laura, but I could see the doubt there, the confusion, the same confusion I had felt when he first called me. No, you're not, he whispered, shaking his head. My mom said, you left us. I felt a pang in my chest, but I knew I couldn't back down now. I didn't leave you, Ethan, I said, my voice softening. I've been looking for you, trying to find you. And now that I have, I'm not leaving again. Laura stepped forward, her face pale, her eyes flashing with anger. You can't just come in here and take him. He's mine. You don't get to ruin his life just because you found out the truth. I stood up and faced her. You don't get to make decisions for him anymore. He's my son too, and I'm not letting you keep him from me. The legal battle was long and painful, but in the end, the truth won. I was granted full custody of Ethan. Laura tried to fight it, but there was no contest. The DNA test, the evidence, everything pointed to the undeniable fact that Ethan was mine. It was hard. There were moments when Ethan would look at me with those same confused eyes, unsure of how to feel about everything that had happened. But I was patient. I was there for him, and I made sure he knew he was loved. As for Laura, she vanished. I didn't hear from her again after the court proceedings. I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. What mattered was Ethan, his future, his happiness. We started a new life together, just the two of us. It wasn't easy, but every step of the way, I knew it was the right thing to do. I wasn't going to let the lies define us. And as we walked into the future, hand in hand, I promised myself one thing. I would never let him doubt his place in the world. I would never let him feel abandoned again. I had my son back, and nothing was going to take him away from me.